Hello everyone, welcome to my first impressions of Mushroom Wars. This is what I would call an RTS light strategy game. It is, well, that's kind of redundant, real-time strategy game. It's developed by Zillion Whales and Create Studios, that's Create without an E. And we're going to be having a look at it today. So this game, I believe, is $10 currently on Steam. They just added controller support and online multiplayer. Maybe everything like controller support in an RTS game, that sounds weird. Well, it was originally on WiiWare, and then they put it over on PS3 and mobile devices. But what's cool about this game is it does have local multiplayer, so, you know, if you got a bunch of friends, you can hook up a bunch of controllers and play like that. It's cool. I like supporting games that do that. Anyway, aspect ratios, a lot of them here. It's only showing up to 1920 by 1080 because I'm currently going through HDMI, that's how I record. A decent amount of resolution options here. No graphics options, really, but honestly, you're not going to need them. Like, look at the frame rate up here. The power of the PS4 couldn't even comprehend that. What is disappointing is full screen only, no borderless windowed mode at all, VSync, separate sound settings, always nice to have, though. Multiplayer, unfortunately, no one's playing online, but it does have, of course... Did I say local multiplayer? Did I say online? I don't know. It does have local multiplayer, so you can do that. And there's a good selection of maps. Fortunately, there's no like create your own map, which would have been nice, considering that this game is actually quite simplistic and like all of its like. I don't want to say like comes off as like there's no strategy, man. There's not enough strategy. It's not Skulls of the Shogun. Well, I consider this to be a very RTS-like game. I don't want to have that come off as an insult. But, you know, when it comes to games like Skulls of the Shogun, which have so much strategy and, like, so much effort put into all their maps, like, they could easily do, like, some kind of map creation tool. It's fine. Anyway, so, campaign mode will probably take you about less than 3 hours to beat. I've died a lot, and I've also messed up a lot of recording, so it's all weird. It says 42 minutes, 11 seconds, but that's not counting all the losses. And that's me playing on normal. There's rewards, there's, you know, there's incentive to unlock everything, I guess. Not sure which one of these, the ones with books and the ones that don't have books, like what's the difference between them? Like, are they domination, or? Maybe so, I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, very minimal, there's barely any story, so, which is a shame, so let's get into it. Alright, so how it works is that you pretty much overwhelm your enemy with troops. And there is some strategy to it, but there isn't much, unfortunately. But it can be fun at times. So what we have here is, like, you know, a standard map. This is actually one of the more fair maps. I'm going to talk about that later, but this game can actually be pretty brutal at times, especially in terms of just, like, sometimes the difficulty just goes out of whack, and it's like, really? They really made a level like that? Anyway, so what you can do is you have multiple types of buildings that you can upgrade or choose, or like what types of buildings you want. So for example, let's choose, so we currently have 50 troops. It's going to cost 30 to build this one, which is this one right here. And it's like basically an upgrade building. It gives your troops a defense and offense buff. So we're going to do that. So now we have 20. There's 20 right here. This is a neutral building. They don't generate any forces, so we're going to attack it. Now, if we had 20 without the upgrade, we would lose, but here we just barely win. As you see right there, in fact, I think it kind of glitched out there. So now we have one of our own ones. Now you notice that this is like one of these mushroom houses. They're actually generating troops for us, and we can upgrade it to get a third one right here. Like they're doing up here, they have 4. So they have a large army, but we have upgraded troops. But they have a tower here, so we're not going to attack yet. So we can upgrade, we'll sacrifice 10 of our guys. I don't really know how that works. They just do a blood sacrifice. Then notice that there's this ground rebel right here. That's a very... Oh god, oh god, oh god. What are they... Okay, they're... Oh, no, Jesus. No, we're gonna win, because they lost a ton. Wow. They lost a ton of troops to these cannons. But anyway, you notice how when I was upgrading that you saw the rubble here, and the same thing happened to the enemy. That's a mechanic in the game, so when you notice that, hey, they just spent troops upgrading, so they have less troops. And you can see that down here. But it's very important to know that visually, because you know which bases have less troops now, so you can invade. And the AI was right there, just taking the opportunity, and I think we might actually lose here. The AI is, all credit to him, very unpredictable at times. But we're getting the advantage because we have what's called defense bonus. I'll explain in a second, but that's important because when you see like people like spending like see anyone spending troops to upgrade buildings, you know, which buildings are becoming reinforced, or which buildings are about to lose a lot of troops because of upgrades. So, one of the things there was the AI just attacked me, and he just threw a bunch of stuff at me, but we were able to overwhelm them, despite the fact that they seem to have, like, more troops. Now, you notice down here, you don't see it anymore, there was a little sun mark, and you notice this thing's shrinking right now. It's like this little dial. So, when you defend an area long enough, from enough troops, you get one of these little defense bonuses. It's called, morale. It's called morale. And it's a really cool system. And basically, it does encourage some turtling, some defense, but not entirely, because you don't want to do that, because eventually morale just decays over time. So, you want to be very careful what you attack. When you attack, you want to be almost sure that you can take a base. You don't want to attack like 3 different places, because it spreads out your troops, and then they get a ton of morale. And then, even if you have like hundreds of troops, that'll just drown the fight out even longer. Alright, so I think we can take this thing. Now, I think we might get hit. No, we're not going to get hit by cannons. So, AI, I feel, in a lot of these games in strategy games, is probably one of the most important things you can get right in a strategy game, because you're not just talking about the enemy AI, you're also talking about your AI. And pathing is a huge issue in a lot of strategy games. So, one of the issues here is notice how they're going out in waves. And look at this, look at this. My guys are dying because of this stupid wave pattern thing, and that's a problem. Now watch this. I'm going to get hit by 2 towers now, and he's upgrading right there, so I'm able to take that easily. And if we take this one, because it's domination, we just need all the ones with the stars on it, we win. And we have the double upgrade, so now these guys have baseball bats, so it's very easy to take these. So this is a better example. This is an example of a fair map. Not all maps have this. Not all maps are this good. And this is actually, a lot of the other ones are faster paced than this. This is a lot slower because we started off with less resources. Let's just take this and win the game. Cool. So, the AI is, it can feel a little bit unfair sometimes, depending on, like, the AI in strategy games, the developers have found a way to beef them up, because you either have dumb AI or you have very good AI, and then you have like the tools you need to dispatch them. So, if you have tough AI, that's fine if you have a lot of tools to get rid of them. Skulls of the Shogun did this incredibly well, whereby they just started out with a couple more units than you did, and maybe like a home field advantage, but you did have the advantage of, you know, having all these things on the map. Like Skulls of the Shogun, you could push enemies off cliffs, you can get upgrades, you can get troops, there's all kinds of counters, so if the enemy was doing anything, there was strategy. Here, not so much the case, but it's still, like, you know, it's not like the AI is blatantly cheating. The only problem is that, well, the AI itself, the problem is sometimes some maps can be a little bit iffy. So, for example, I was playing on one map, actually, let's just show you an example of good and bad. So, this map right here. Alright, so you see this house right here? Now, bear in mind, up until this point right here, I could not upgrade or change my bases. So that goes to my argument about how if you can build, you can use tools, and you can counter, right? But if you have set bases, it really depends on the map. And the map has to be fair. In general, it has to be fair, but you have to be more careful when you have, that's a big problem with strategy games, when you restrict, a lot of games, other games get away with this, like first-person shooters, like they kind of lock off your powers and like some kind of, in certain games. And sometimes it's fine, but for strategy games, you really want to do that, because the strategy, the mechanics are, it's like a huge, massive part of the game. So, here, for example, and you can't upgrade anything, but this is somewhat fair. You might say, like, well, they have more troops, and then you have more upgraded buildings. Yeah, but you have a tower, and you have upgraded troops over here. And that level was basically revenge for this level. This level was horrible. It's a terribly designed level. So this is an example of what I was talking about, how it feels like it's cheating sometimes. So, enemies start out with upgrades, right? And they start out with more troops. And on top of that, you're in a horrible position right here, because look at this. Look how many bases they can get without even going near these towers, whereby if they can hold, and they also have their base right here with, like, that can spew out upgraded troops from these areas, so they can hold this point right here better. And this is an important point right here, because if you try to go around, it's longer, and again, because of the wave formation, like, look, if they come out in waves from here, they'll get hit by this. If they come out from here, it'll take forever, and they'll have plenty of time to send troops between these places. it's a problem with balance. And you might say I'm knocking the game a lot for, like, this one map or this other map or this one little mechanic, but honestly that's a big problem because that really says a lot about what the mechanics are for this game and that they're not very good. It can still be fun, but it's not great. And, you know, I'm not expecting StarCraft from all these, but I would expect a little bit more polish. Now, thankfully, some of the later maps get better, but it doesn't help that the game has very little motivation for just making me want to do some of this stuff, like the... It's like, Jesus, we're gonna get slaughtered. I'm trying to take this base, and they're gonna keep sending waves. This is how I beat it last time. I just sent so many waves here that eventually they stopped. See, this again, like, they're sending... And that's another problem. Like, you can... Like, that's something I really wish they would fix, because notice how, like... So you have the ability to send in troops. We're actually getting defense points, so this is how we're holding it out. So... You can send in troops in waves, so you can have, like, so if you use the mouse wheel here, you can send 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100% of your troops to a base. And the thing is, once you send them out, they're going there. Either they die or they get there. You cannot change their course. And the problem is that this ties in with the defense system really nicely, because my complaint with the system in general is because what happened was, like, I'll send, like let's say they have an army of troops moving. And, like, let's say I own this base right here. Let's say they have an army of troops moving right here, and it, like, from here, right? And it looks like, oh god, they're gonna hit this base. Alright, I'm gonna send all my troops to here. And then it turns out they break apart and move to here. And then by the time I reroute my troops and send them here, they've already taken the base, and I cannot benefit from any defense buffs. That's ridiculous. And what's worse is that you can't see that, but the AI knows exactly where you're going because they manage their troops based on where your troops are going. And in the offline multiplayer, and I don't know about online, but in the offline multiplayer, you don't see that either. I mean, you have to see that because because, like, you know, like, if you have, like, if you have 4 people playing, it can be very confusing if you don't see any arrows. It's again, it's an example of an AI getting cheap, like, the cheap advantage. How many troops do they send? We're about to find out. This is gonna suck. Thankfully, I'm not in range right here. Oh my god, that was perfect. Alright, I think we're gonna be able to take this. See, once you get this thing, and there's only one, like, what they could have also done to mitigate this problem, because it is kind of a problem, the idea that certain, like, factions or whatever, like certain sides start out with better stuff, is what they should have done is what could have been interesting to add more to the gameplay mechanics is something like a moving objective or something very random, like, and even then something random doesn't have to be, like, unfair. What it could also be is, like, I don't know, like, if you get your troops to a certain area in a certain time, they will get a small bonus, temporarily, and that could be used like an attack and defense bonus, like something like one of these, but without having to use one. And by getting that, you could have, like, you know, 1 minute of like, strength in order to maybe do, like, one decisive, like, battle, like, or to take over something. But something that'll be strategically won. So, like, if you could waste this buff easily, but if you're, like, good at strategy games, you can overcome it, you can overcome your enemies, like, against overwhelming odds, and beat them. Which sounds cool. Unfortunately, they don't have anything like that. A lot of the time, it feels... The strategy feels a little bit ham-fisted at times. It feels like it could be a lot better. See, for example, you could, like, just easily... Oh, God. See, I have the morale buff, so it's fine for now, but... It's a little crazy. I do like it, though. I do think there's a lot of positives. The phrase, like, oh, it's good for people who've never played a strategy game before, is just such a weird one. I'm trying to review a game called 8-Bit Armies, and that's, like, their whole selling point, and I just feel like that sounds so wrong, because why would you want a game... Like, the whole problem with strategy games is that they don't have enough strategy sometimes. Like, you have games that are like, oh, you just build a bunch of bases and then turtle for, like, 20 minutes until your army is freaking huge, and then you win the game by just bulldozing everyone, like, with passive AI, because we don't need aggressive AI, and this game does have that, which I can appreciate. Good God, they're going all out here. Then we're gonna lose anyway. Yeah, and they also have 3 morale. Yeah, that's a loss. But I feel like the games, like, again, like Halo Wars had a problem, like, with this, 8-bit Armies has a problem with this, like, even on normal, like, at least this game's playing it aggressive. But, you know, some other games, like, they started at easy mode, and then, like, it's, like, normal in many games is, like, just super easy mode. That's why I almost play every strategy game at normal now, because I've gotten so good at some of them, like, and this game doesn't even have, like, key bindings or, like, macros, which is actually kind of a problem. I can see, like, the disadvantage to people who, excuse me, people who use controllers. But, I mean, again, like, every point I made, like, whereby, like, they could have made, like, some kind of, like, add more mechanics to the strategy part of the game. And they kind of just didn't. They made this very simple mobile game. They didn't, like, lift the restrictions for PC. It's weird. And it's kind of a shame. I do think this game is a bit of fun, but, you know, it is pretty cheap, but are you guys fine with playing a game that, like a strategy game with very little strategy? And are you okay with it, like, you know, even if it's casual, are you okay with it not even having a borderless windowed mode? I mean, yeah, it has a windowed mode, but, like, it's a real-time strategy. So you're gonna have to be, like, constantly looking at it, playing it, like, I mean, yeah, you can pause, but it's gonna be kind of weird. I always feel like turn-based strategy games do really well on PC because of that windowed mode options, because you have the option to throw it on another monitor and play it, like as you go, like, play it, like, every now and then, like, just turn your head over, like, oh, I'll play another turn. Here it's a little different. You have to keep track of a lot of things, and even when you pause it, you could forget where the enemies are. So it's trying to be this, almost like this tougher strategy game, but it doesn't have the mechanics to back it up. And they are just throwing shit at me because I'm just still getting morale. Like, this is gonna go on forever. Let's see how long we can go. They're going to other places now, or they're coming down here. I don't know. But anyway, guys, yeah, that's my thoughts on Mushroom Wars. Again, it's $10. It's pretty cheap. Maybe you can buy it with some of your friends or on a Steam sale and, like, play it with them. And, you know, it is supporting local co-op, so it does add a little bit of value. Anyway, that's pretty much it for me. It's hard to really come up with a conclusion on this game. It is cool, but it has a couple shortcomings. You can say that about every game, though. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.